A great movie watching experience can draw you into a completely imaginary world, make you forget your troubles for even just a couple of hours, maybe even forget that you have work the next day. And having a home theater is a great way to take that experience with you all the time. Now, setting up a really good home theater requires good quality components, a bit of technical understanding, and some basic skills in terms of how to get the best performance out of your components. But before we talk about any of that, we really need to address the elephant in the room. And it's probably staring you right in the face. Why do most center channel speakers suck?
If you've seen my last video, then you already know that the center channel speaker is by far the most important speaker in your system. It needs to reproduce basically all of the sounds that you hear on screen. That includes dialogue and action, everything else. Also needs to be small enough to fit right underneath your TV or behind a projector, and it needs to be clearly audible for everyone that's sitting in the room. So, needless to say, it has a lot of responsibilities. Typically, manufacturers will just take the same tweeter that they use in their bookshelf speakers, sandwich that between a couple of woofers, and call it a day. The problem is, that's not really a recipe for success. A center channel speaker needs to clearly reproduce audio for everyone sitting in a room. In technical audio terms, that means that it needs to have great off-axis performance. And as a bit of a technical audio nerd myself, I can test for that. Essentially, we take a microphone that hears without bias. It's engineered to have a flat frequency response, so we can trust what it actually tells us. Then we pop the speaker on a Lazy Susan, pull it away from the walls to reduce reflections, do some fancy filtering to get an idea of what the speaker sounds like without room reflections, then move it around to try and hear what your best friends hear when you invite them over for movie night. We can see where the problem is clearly with some tests. This graph is basically a way to visually represent what a speaker sounds like. Ideally, we want this line to be as flat as possible, but this is okay. This is what it looks like when we're on axis, when we're directly in front of the speaker. You can start to see what the problem is when we move just 15 degrees off to the sides. It gets even worse at 30 degrees, and it's almost unusable at 45. You may not understand what all this information means, but the basic takeaway is that we have this big gap between around 1000 and 4000 hertz, and that really hurts our ability to understand what people are saying. What we end up hearing is good clarity when we're right in the center, but it starts to get harder and harder to hear the words as we move to the sides. Just to be clear, this is simulating what your friends are hearing if they're sitting to the sides of the speaker. The farther you are from the center, the harder it is to hear what's actually being said.
See, the problem stems from the fact that this kind of mid-range tweeter, mid-range speaker was never really designed to be used like this. These are actually designed to be placed vertically. And if we do that, the problem pretty much goes away entirely. And tons of manufacturers do this. I'm not even picking on the specific company that happens to make this speaker. It's just so common. So why do manufacturers actually do this? Well, the reason is really that it's just a heck of a lot cheaper. It's more simple, there's less parts, they don't have to add other drivers. They know that if they added a mid-range in here and crossed over a little bit higher, then this problem would go away. But it's really just the easiest way to cosplay is making it look like your speaker is designed for the task as opposed to doing it properly. The only real way that we can solve this problem is to boycott the products that do this. A lot of people think that you need to have a matched set, same series, same brand as your other speakers in your system. But really, that's a can of worms for another day, and the only solution to that is to subscribe. I'm N.O.B.S, and I will see you soon.